All right. Welcome. We have a number of new officials. We had 100 pre-registered for this event, and hopefully they'll be joining us as we go. But this is the first step, so we're appreciative that you're joining us. I'm Jason Nickleby. I'm the coordinator of officials with the league, and welcome to the inaugural Officiating Recruitment Forum. We held a similar event to this in person last year at Tartan High School last spring. And Brett Carlson, who you'll hear from a little bit later, he really pushed to have this event again, which I'm appreciative of him pushing this. And we were going to have it in person again, but the pandemic has forced us to look at alternative methods. So now we're having this inaugural version on Zoom. So doing it this way allows us to reach the entire state and capture every sport that we have. So I think it's a really unique opportunity we have. So we're looking forward to this evening. So thankful you're joining us, taking the first steps towards what we hope is a successful officiating career. And you'll hear from a number of accomplished officials who have enjoyed success at the high school level, and we would like you to enjoy that same thing. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura Mockentune. She's our Director of Technology, and she's an Assistant Director with the League. She's going to cover some housekeeping and logistical items.
Good evening, everyone. For many of you, you may have been on a number of Zoom calls over the last few months as we've all transitioned into kind of a different world. For those of you that Zoom is new for, just one place to be aware of, if you go down to the very bottom of your screen, you'll see the opportunity to open up a chat screen. That chat, I would recommend and suggest that you have open during the evening tonight. It's a great place to ask questions and to provide any other comments as we move through the night, and would really encourage you to actively use that. With a group this large, asking live questions is sometimes challenging. So if you put them into that chat area, then those of us moderating can keep an eye on what's there and call on some of our speakers to ask those questions. It also lets us know what people are wondering about and thinking about. So even if we don't get to those questions all tonight, we'll be able to respond to people with those at a later date. I would highly encourage you to have your camera on during the evening. It's just much more helpful to be able to make eye contact and see who's around and with you. We know that we see everybody's houses and homes, etc., but would strongly encourage you to have that camera turned on. Another thing, please mute your microphone. Know that if you don't and we hear background noise, we may mute your microphone just to save you the embarrassment and to keep everybody else on task. So if you ever get a message that says somebody's muted you, just know that we took care of that for you. Having that chat window is helpful, having that open. And then also when you registered tonight, or registered for tonight, excuse me, you saw the microsite that's been built for this event and for officials recruitment. You'll find on there, even after tonight, multiple resources. Many of those will be referred to tonight, but you'll find lists of regional coordinators, you'll find lists of associations, you'll find the link to register. Minnesota State High School League is currently in the process of rebuilding technology systems and structures. So this microsite will likely go away in late July when our new website launches. And at that point, there will be a page, and Jason will talk more about this later, but there will be a page for officials recruitment on that website. So until then, this microsite is really the best place to get some of those resources for new officials until you make the step and get in and get registered. So again, cameras on, microphones mute. Please use that chat to ask questions and respond to different things, and use the resources that we provided for you. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Jason.
Thank you, Laura. All right, now we're going to turn it over to Bob Madison for a welcome from the Minnesota State High School League. Bob is an associate director with the league, and he previously held the activities director position at Mounds View High School.
Thank you very much, Jason. And I just would like to say welcome to all of you as well, especially those that are considering the profession of being an official. In my 3 years at the Minnesota State High School League, I have the opportunity to work with football, dance, boys basketball, and baseball primarily. And when you talk about support and help, there's so many in this in the Zoom call here tonight that would do that for you as a new official. You think about the 510 member schools, thousands of coaches, along with thousands of student athletes and participants in activities that need you. You hear that quite often, how we need officials and why we need officials. But I just wanted to encourage you to consider the benefits that you receive as an official. I think the fraternity of officials, the professional group, and the friends that you make around being officials, something I've learned and really grow to appreciate. Jason's talked about the experts that you have here in officiating. That's not me. Yet I've learned so much from those that are here on this call today. And you're going to have a great evening. And I would strongly encourage you to consider being official. As Jason said, you've taken that first step. Become a part of our league, right? We talk about we are the league. We talk about why we need activities in athletics, especially for our youth. And when we do get back to playing, and we hope that we're doing that soon, we need you to take that step, one further step, and get registered and start the amazing profession of being an official. So special shout out to Jason and Tim and Pam and Brett, and you've heard from Laura here from our office for the great work they've done organizing tonight's event. And just sit back and enjoy. And again, we encourage you to be that official. And thank you. And Jason, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. The schedule for tonight is that introduction that you just heard from Bob, and we're going to be moving to the keynote portion here. We'll be hearing from Mike Spanier. Then we'll be discussing the becoming an official, the steps, the benefits, and those pieces. Moving into a few mini sessions with Tim Layton and John Garrett's, and then officiating voices. And then we'll round out the evening with association roundtables, which we will give you some information on as we get closer. So next speaker, as I mentioned, Mike Spanier. Mike has had an accomplished career as an educator and as an official. Mike's career as an educator spans over 40 years as a teacher, coach, school, and district administrator. His over 40-year officiating career includes advancing to Division I in the Big Ten in basketball and professionally with the National Football League. Mike recently retired after 21 years with the NFL. Mike currently is an education consultant and a league state coordinator of football officials and participates in football officiating clinics throughout the Midwest. Mike grew up in central Minnesota farming community and graduated with advanced degrees in education from St. Cloud State University. Mike and his wife Kathy reside in Sartell, where they raised 2 children and are now blessed with 4 grandchildren. So Mike Spanier.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Jason and Bob, for those kind words and fine introduction. I'm going to try to share with you this evening in 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, what I normally would share with a civic group or another organization of some sort that would invite me. That probably took 45 minutes. So I'm going to move right on through and try to share some of the highlights and the importance of the Minnesota State High School League and becoming entry-level official and the rewards from that. First of all, as Jason mentioned, I grew up in a farming community, small town, one of 11 children, and went to St. Cloud State University. Competed in baseball my first year and found out that I probably wasn't going to be a college baseball player or football player or basketball player. And I certainly wanted to stay close to the game. Also, I, of course, needed some money to spend, and I was working 2 part-time jobs. And with my interest in athletics, the local intramural director at that time asked if they were looking for officials and people who could officiate. And I had an interest in staying involved in the sport. But I have to tell you, my biggest interest was the extra cash as a college student. So I took part in that, and then after I graduated, I took a teaching job in Bemidji, and I coached 3 sports, and really didn't have an opportunity to get back or do any more officiating. But I did register with the high school league in case an opportunity came along. And as we got through the basketball season, which I coached 9th graders, our season was done earlier. I filled in on a basketball game, a 2-person crew in a tiny town of Clearbrook, Minnesota, and that was my first basketball game. I then moved to St. Cloud Apollo and accepted a teaching and coaching position there, and worked coaching 9th grade sports. So I had the opportunity to be available some evenings, and the local head of the Officials Association asked me if I'd be interested in working various levels of basketball at that time, and certainly I loved anything to get me involved in the game, and so I worked some 9th grade games and B squad games, and tagged along with some veteran officials and worked a B game or JV game. And eventually, after I quit coaching and started to graduate school and continued to teach, I was asked by one of the local officials, in fact, a colleague, teacher friend, whose partner was retiring in basketball, if I would join up with him. And so that's really how I got my start in basketball. But had it not been for the local association, and had it not been for someone who took an interest in my officiating and encouraged me, I probably would have floundered quite a bit and just moved about, so to speak, in the officiating ranks. I also then got involved in subbing on crews for football. And quite frankly, at that time, we didn't have the shortage that we have today. And so to get 3 or 4 games in a year was quite an accomplishment at that time. But then I was asked to join a crew in high school football, and there started my career, so to speak, in football, and worked on a crew for the same crew for quite a few years, and then moved on to the college ranks after one of the guys, in fact, the white hat on that crew, had an opening on his college crew, and I jumped into that in the Division II level after subbing in on some junior college games and also the Division III league. I also continued to work basketball at the high school level, a strong schedule in basketball. And at that time, you could work practically every night of the week, with the onset of girls athletics, and certainly took advantage of as many opportunities as I could to work. From there, I moved on to working Division II basketball also. But meanwhile, I also continued to work high school basketball. And so I'd worked two high school basketball games and probably 2 to 3 college games. So it was busy, and of course, to have an understanding family, which I'll mention a little bit later, was certainly something that we all needed to have. After working for, I'm going to say, up to 15 years in Division II football and continuing working Friday night football, had an opportunity to apply to the Big Ten, all at the urging of other officials in the Minnesota area. People had seen me work and encouraged me, and people I looked up to, people I would call and ask them to attend my games, give me some feedback, and those kinds of things. And after 6 years in the Big Ten, after 3 years in the Big Ten, I applied in football to the National Football League. But prior to that, before getting into the Big Ten and football, I also went to a basketball camp for the Big Ten, and the Big Ten of supervisor officials came down after watching me work a few games and asked to have lunch with me, and therein started my Division I football career. And what I'd say to that is that you never know who's watching, and whether it's a JV game or a 9th grade game or a varsity game, you never know who's there, who could help you out, give you some feedback, and certainly be helpful to you. After that, I applied. I worked 6 years in football. After the 3rd year, I applied to the NFL at the urging of several Minnesota NFL officials. I applied to the NFL while working in the Big Ten, worked 3 more years in the Big Ten, and the NFL would scout most major college Division I games. And so they were looking at not only me, but other officials who had made applications to the National Football League. So I also then continued to work at Division I basketball, strictly in the Big Ten, and also continued to work Division III basketball and Division II basketball. So now I'm upwards of over close to 20 years in officiating. 15 of those years for sure were high school basketball in a combination with college basketball, small college basketball. After 3 years 3 more years rather in the Big Ten in football, I got a call from the National Football League for an interview. They brought me to New York and interviewed me, and then actually assigned me to work what was called NFL Europe in those days, which they no longer have. And that was a combination of rookies and training professional football players who were on the taxi squad and so on that played NFL Europe. And so for 3 years, while working both football in the Big Ten, basketball in the Big Ten, and in NFL Europe, which was played in the spring, we would make 3 trips to Europe and work 3 games each trip over. We were gone about 10 days. So therein lied my opportunity to get more exposure for the National Football League, who then after 2 years in the NFL Europe in 1999, got the call for the NFL. I continued then to work Big Ten basketball also for 3 years, but after that, my travel got to be so extensive, and traveling out of Minnesota in the winter to all parts of the United States when they started playing basketball every night of the week, so to speak, on national television. So I backed off on working basketball and focused on NFL football for the next 20-some years. What I want to say is that in terms of high school officiating, the rewards that I got as a result of getting a start with the Minnesota State High School League, registering, being involved, being a part of a local association, gave me the opportunity for the support that I needed. It gave me the confidence, it gave me the exposure, the opportunities that associations provide when it comes time to tournament times, whether it be sectionals or state or subsectionals. It was unbelievable. It was they were so helpful, and the relationships that were established along the way in high school athletics were something I'll always cherish and still maintain those relationships. I think it's very important that you become involved, that you're taking this first step. I applaud what you're doing. And I never set out to be a Division I official or an NFL official, professional official. I always approached it as, okay, this is the level I'm working at. I want to be the best. If I'm going to be a high school official, I'm going to be the best high school official I can be. And I'll do whatever it takes to network, to get the support, and to have fun. If I didn't have fun, well, for all these years of over 40 years of officiating, I can tell you I certainly wouldn't have done it. Yes, the money was great, and the opportunities that the money afforded for me to involve my family, whether it be vacations, whether it be extra things around the house, whether it be special camps or rewards for our children, were great. But none of it would have been accomplished without having a good partner. If you are in a family situation, it's very important to have that communication, to work with your partner, to keep the communication open, and to focus on plans so that everybody knows what everybody's doing in terms of, childcare and taking children to camps and clinics and games and so on. So that communication is very important. I also just would like to say that the memories that I have are just unbelievable. All the experiences far outweigh the frustrations that we all have along the way, whether it be travel, whether it be walking off the court or off the field, not feeling good about what you've done, which, it's going to happen from time to time. And I can tell you that there were many times especially in my first years, that I said to myself, I don't know if I can do this. But it always took a partner, it took a mentor, it took someone that I would just sit down and talk to give me feedback, that it was just kept me going. It really kept me going. So it was just, officiating allowed me to build relationships. It allowed me to form those kind of camaraderie skills that we all need to have as working together as a team, as partners. I can honestly say that it was so much fun. It was time that you were able to enjoy. And the trips, driving 200-300 miles in the college ranks, or whether it was 3 miles down the road in high school and sitting down and having a pizza and a pop after the game, those are the memories that I cherish today. And the relationships that I have formed over the years were best at the high school level and the small college level. Even though I maintained some relationships with the major college and professional ranks, I can tell you that from day to day, the relationships that I formed with high school officials are the most memorable. That said, I've already extended my time. I can't tell you enough about how enjoyable it's been to visit with you, even though I was rather hurried and trying to cover a lot of bases. But I can tell you that the best way to get ahead if you're looking to advance, whether it be working the schedule that might be a larger schedule, is to simply be the best, try to be the best at the level you're at, seek mentorship, seek help from your association, certainly become an active member of your association, ask questions, and I can tell you that everyone will support you. All you need to do is ask. And you don't need to have a mentor assigned to you necessarily. You can ask another official and take what they offer you and applies to you and use it. If it's something that you can't use, it's not you, then don't use it. Just move on and seek additional help. So with that said, I just want to congratulate all of you for being a part of this. Know that I'm here to support you. My contact information is on the website. Please feel free to reach out. Congratulations for being taking that first step, and whether it's judging dance or gymnastics or hockey or whether it be basketball or football, certainly we need to have We're looking for people who want to be involved, regardless of their age, regardless of their experience. I know you can be successful. We are here to support you. That said, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Mike is an outstanding example of what we have in Minnesota to offer at all levels, high school, college, professional. It's just amazing, and Mike could speak to this if we had more time, but it's just amazing, the camaraderie and the relationships that Minnesota officials have. And that's whether they stay here or move to other parts of the country. A lot of them can speak to the great relationships they developed at the high school level in Minnesota, and how much they miss about that. We can, Mike and I and others can speak to, as you move up, perhaps in your officiating career, sometimes it becomes a little bit more like a job than fun, like high school is. And you just want to take advantage and enjoy all of your moments at the high school level as much as you can. So thanks to Mike. Appreciate his words of wisdom. And as he said, his contact information is on the website. So we're now going to move on to the steps to becoming an official and the benefits in those pieces. I'll be handling this part of the presentation with Brett Carlson. Brett, I mentioned earlier, is the Community Education Director for North Branch Area Public Schools, and prior to serving as the Community Education Director, he was also the Activities Director at North Branch Area Public Schools and Lakeville North High School. Brett is a coaches education faculty member, and he works a variety of state tournaments for the league, and he's also the lead bulldog on making sure that we do this program, and I'm appreciative of him for that. Okay. There we go. So as we mentioned, we're going to talk about the officiating program. Tim Layton and John Garrett will be presenting on some topics, and they will explain that when we get to them. And then we're going to have a variety of Minnesota officiating voices share their experiences, and then we'll have the breakout sessions via Zoom and Google Hangout, and Laura will explain those pieces. So I will turn it over to Brett to cover this portion.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Jason. I don't know that I've ever been called a bulldog before, but I guess in this case, I'll take it. As Jason said, we started this a year ago at Tartan High School, and I think we had 7 or 8 people that participated. So it's great to have, I see 111 participants on there tonight. So it's awesome. And as Mike said, congratulations on taking the first step in what is really going to be a great career for you. My officiating career couldn't be any different than Mike's. I reffed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon one time. My one and only officiating was the 9th grade B girls basketball game, and it was way too fast for me. So I decided that officiating is not for me. But through just my experience I've been able to have with the high school league, both being an AD and then working the state tournaments, there's a lot of awesome things that I've seen firsthand about being an official that I think are important to share with people. And that's kind of what I was able to push Jason to do a year ago and continue to grow this. So I'm grateful for that. The first thing, and Mike talked about it, and we all know how important relationships are, but one of my favorite things about working the state tournaments is hearing officials interact with each other and tell those stories that Mike talked about, just how important it is to have that interaction with other people and how special that bond often is. And the second thing, kind of giving back to the sport, I think everybody on this call, sports have been important to us, and it's awesome to, be able to give back and help out, the next one in line, help out other kids that wouldn't be able to have an opportunity if it weren't for officials. Mike also talked about all the fun that he had and how having fun is super important. And I know that sometimes, officiating can seem nerve-wracking, especially if you're a younger official, but I can speak for ADs all across the state that high schools are a safe place to learn how to become an official. I think ADs from 9th grade all the way up through varsity do a really good job and are really intentional about making sure that coaches and fans and everybody in attendance understands that officials have an important role to do. So I wouldn't be worried about any of those types of things. If you're just a little intimidated about going into a high school, I know that ADs understand the value that officials have and are working constantly with coaches and parents and everybody to make sure that officials are supported for the important work that they do. Staying involved in your favorite sport, fitness. I mean, where else can you, depending upon what you're doing, where else can you, get paid to run around and to work out a little bit? So that's always good. One of the key things, the next two, I think, kind of speak if there's any younger students on there, if you're a college age student, and these next two really apply to you. Lifelong skill development, I think that's critical with officiating in terms of, being able to simply deal with challenging situations. You're going to have those all throughout your career, all throughout your life, whatever career path you take or whatever profession you decide to go into. Building those skills as a young official is only going to help you be successful in what you're doing. Communication, obviously, that's going to be key in every position and every job that you might ever have. And then, being able to think quickly and respond to situations that are in front of you. So I think those skills that you learn becoming an official just transfer beautifully into any other role and any other work that you might take on. Then, of course, as Mike talked about the money, and we talked with kind of metro area ADs, and again, this is just a snapshot of it, but it's about $60 for a lower level contest, and of course that's going to be different, but we did the math, and that kind of works out to $35 an hour, give or take. So again, college kids out there, if you can get $35 an hour, that's a pretty good gig. And I know that, especially with lower level officials, from 4 to 7 o'clock in the evening, there's a lot of things that you're not doing that you could go officiate. And it doesn't matter where in the United States you're going to school, if college is where you're at right now. If you knock on the local high school door and ask to speak to the AD and say, hey, I can do some lower level basketball or baseball or whatever it might be, I think they'd hire you on spot. So I think there's a ton of great reasons to become an official, and we look forward to having you at the high school league.
Did we lose Jason on here?
I don't know, we may have.
That's what I always, we might have lost Pam too.
Did we lose the high school league power at the high school league office?
We did this afternoon, we did, before I left, it actually did blip briefly.
Yep. We lost Tim too.
Yep.
Is Tim in the office? I'm not sure.
He is, yeah. Well, I think he was when I left.
So at this point, we're going to hunt. We'll throw in a sports analogy for this. I guess I would ask Brett, do you want me to pull up Jason's slides and you can keep going?
I think so. I think we'll just go through it. Again, full disclosure, I've never, well, I guess that one 9th grade B girls basketball game, that's my official experience. So I won't have the level of detail and level of knowledge that Jason's going to have, but I think just to toss it up there, Laura, and have people at least be able to see the information. I think it'd be good. We still have 110 participants, so people haven't been on it yet. So
we've only lost the 3 of them.
So far, so good.
So Brooklyn Center was the problem?
Oh,
I think so. You're back.
Welcome back.
Brooklyn Center got shut down because it was just the 3 of us that are here in the office. So,
okay. Well, the rest of us are good. Brett finished his slides. So if you want to throw your presentation back up.
And they're all glad you're back. Otherwise, they're going to have hear me go through it, which they wouldn't have learned anything. So they're glad you're back.
Yeah. Not sure what happened here in Brooklyn Center, but we're back. Okay. Well, what we do here at the league, besides promoting officiating as a desired avocation, is we also have very big hamster wheels that keep our Zoom meetings going, and we didn't keep those going. So we're gonna keep them going for the rest of the night here. So we work with officials registration, observation programs, training and development of officials. We're a liaison to the officials associations. Work on continuous process improvements, and then state tournament official selection and game assignments. And we'll talk about the regular season pieces here in a little bit. We work on teaching the fundamentals of contest rules, mechanics, communication. So, you know, we're working through those pieces by providing online rules meetings, training clinics, and then continuous training opportunities throughout the season. And that includes training memos, training videos, training clinics, our observer program, and other ways of providing feedback to officials. We also provide connections with experienced officials, so that's a key aspect. Mike talked about reaching out to people that you know or working through an association or others to ask questions. They are going to help you in your officiating career. And those are key. You know, a lot of us that came from the teaching world, which is where I used to be before I worked at the league, a lot of teachers leave the profession because they don't have a mentorship relationship. And it's because there will be some situations that are challenging, and it's helpful to have somebody you can talk to about those. You're not on an island, you're not alone, there's someone there to help you. And Brett talked about this before we got kicked off, that the ADs and our coaches and others involved in league programming really promote a safe environment. So they are going to make sure that officials, feel safe in the job that they do. And if there is ever a rare occurrence where that's not the case, it is addressed. You see some horror stories, on social media or out there on the news across the country. Those kind of things in Minnesota, it's not that they don't happen, but they're very, very rare, especially at the high school level. And they are addressed by our schools and ADs when those kind of things come up. So you can feel safe about officiating. So we try to promote officiating every chance we get. I'm not sure that showing you a picture of a crew in a blizzard promotes officiating very well, but we think it's fun, and maybe even the one to the left doesn't do it very much either, considering that's a track meet with all that snow on the ground. But that's officiating in Minnesota, unless you're a dance team judge, and then you're in good shape. Looks pretty nice inside on that picture. Other ways we promote officiating, we're just always trying to get the word out about our programming and let people know that opportunities exist. We have the officiating recruitment portal that will be coming onto our website in mid-July or so. This is a new aspect that we have not had before that will provide content for prospective officials, frequently asked questions, registration, other training opportunities, Minnesota officiating voices. So there'll be a number of avenues to promote officiating and to show you those next steps. It will also list the association contacts, assigners, charter clinicians, and so on that can assist you in your journey of officiating. At the league, we have about 6,300 contest officials and judges across our 18 sports. And all of our new officials will receive a preseason sport mailing. They'll get rule books, case books, etc. Our returning officials don't get them this year, but you'll learn more about that in the future. But for this year, as new officials, you will receive all of that information. And you also have the ability to purchase additional materials if you would like. If you have questions or concerns when you're going through the registration or anything else, email or call the league and we will help you. We're here for you. Again, you're not on an island. We have a number of experienced veteran mentors that can assist, and we will put you in touch with one of them. if you're ready to register and get going with the process, we will send you that link after the meeting tonight, and you can use that. We encourage you to connect with the local association who can set you up with a mentor if they have that in your sport, in your area of the state. You have the chance to connect with one or more of those tonight that are on this call, and will have their own Zoom meeting or Google Hangout at the end. And we also have every association in the state listed on that forum website, and we have over 100 unique associations across the state that cover all of those sports. If you do register with us, you register via Arbiter Sports, and we'll send you that link. It's $30 for Sport 1, which covers your rule books and case books, background check, exam, and insurance. And the requirements to officiate varsity contests, the basics are completion of online rules meetings, an exam, concussion module, and then the background check. As part of your process, you'll upload a photo so we know who you are. If you go ahead and click on that registration link, this is what you'll see, and you will choose your sport, and you'll choose the eligibility tiers, and we can explain more about those as we go through the year. Again, if you register online via Arbiter, $30 for Sport 1, $15 for each additional sport. And then if you want to purchase additional publications that might assist you in your officiating, so Simplified and Illustrated, Rules by Topic. The Simplified and Illustrated is really a nice piece to have. Really breaks down the rules in a simple terms with some illustrations. And you can purchase those via Shopify on our online store, which is on our website. All officials that register with the league are required to have a background check completed. And that's part of your registration fee. It's not an extra fee. It's part of the registration process. Every new official needs to complete that. We do rechecks on officials every 5 years. So every 5 years we'll catch you in a recheck just to make sure that we're all good. And then your birth date and social security number are required as part of that process in Arbiter. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go on a separate website and complete any forms. That used to be the case with our new vendor. You just put those pieces in and we will run that for you. If there's any issues, we will reach out to you. Otherwise, it will check off as green on your site. Concussion course, the concussion module completion is required by state statute. So anyone that works with student athletes below the age of 18 as a coach or as an official in those capacities is required to complete concussion training by state law. So if you officiate any level, that's the bare minimum. You have to do that. You're not required to be registered to work JV in 10th grade, but we always encourage that because of the insurance and background check so that you're covered when you work those events. The new concussion module that every official will need to view will be available after August 1. That will incorporate all of the new state statute items, and you retake that course every 3 years. Rules meeting exam. There's a general officiating module, a sport-specific module that you would view, and the exam varies in length from 30 to 100 questions. Must pass with 80%. You get one retake, and you use your rule book to take your exam. We always encourage you to reach out to experienced officials to help you with the exam. Don't try to just wing it because you played the sport. You'll find out that the rules are a little bit more complicated, so we always recommend that you reach out to someone who can assist. Again, you will get a packet with those rule books and case books and information prior to the season. Here's an overview of the officials that we have, and it's pretty much stayed pretty consistent over the years, but with the economy having some struggles, we would expect a little bit of an uptick, and we hope that you stick around, and we're glad that you're here tonight. We have training and development curriculum for all of these sports. There are other sports, a lot of their training curriculum is handled at the association level, but there is training available. Again, providing training curriculum across the spectrum of sports we provide, and we have weekly video training and additional training in other sports as well. We're provide development and implementation of training for 18 activities, and we schedule approximately 35 in-person training clinics, which we're still planning on holding for this upcoming year. We're hopeful that we can get together in person, and we're still planning on doing that. The officials associations, who you'll hear from or meet with a little bit later, again, 100 unique officials associations. We serve as the main contact for the charter clinicians and the assignment secretaries. And we host annual meetings with them to make sure that we're on the same page from a rules and mechanics standpoint. Tim will be discussing this a little bit, but each sport has its own equipment. Costs will range 100 to 300, maybe more depending on the sport. You know, hockey and baseball, you're going to have to pick up a little bit more equipment, and some sports don't and activities don't require nearly as much. But you'll have to check with a mentor or check with us or an association. They can assist you with that. Many new officials and associations can receive discounts on equipment if you check with them. Once you get into it, you've completed your requirements, you have your equipment. We always suggest working a scrimmage, get out there and practice before it truly counts. And it will help you adjust mechanics, positioning. You know, Brett talked about how fast it is. Even a 9th grade B basketball game is fast for someone who's new. So it allows you to have that practice before the games count. You can work with veteran officials to do that. And sometimes you have an opportunity to be compensated for that. And once you've done your requirements and you work some scrimmages, you got your equipment, you're ready to go. You're going to start officiating games. We always recommend finding a mentor or someone to get advice and feedback from, and just keep getting better at it. You understand that on day one, you're not going to know all the rules and you're not going to be perfect. And on your last day officiating, you will not know all the rules and you will not be perfect. Don't feel the pressure to have all of this down the very first game, very first event that you work. It's going to be a learning opportunity for you, and you just have to get better at one thing each game. We provide insurance as part of your officiating registration, and it covers you to and from games. It also covers you on games below the professional level in sports that we cover, even if you aren't necessarily registered in that sport. So that's a nice benefit to have through us. So if you register through us, you're covered on youth games in the summer, assuming it's a sport that the league covers. So if you register for and complete the requirements for football and you work a youth baseball game in the summer, you are covered because we have baseball. If you work rugby, you're not covered because we don't have rugby at the league. So a nice benefit to have. So I kind of scooted through that information a little quicker than I had planned, but we had the power outage and we're back. So we got through a lot of those pieces. We're going to keep answering the questions in the chat. We'll keep answering those questions. But at this point in time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Tim Layton. He's my colleague next door. Tim is a 30-year official with the league, the Wisconsin Association Division III in junior college. He has worked soccer, basketball, baseball, fast pitch. He is part of the Minneapolis Officials Association. He's a board member and past president. He's a league clinician, and as I mentioned, he's a colleague with me here at the league. He's also on the High School Today editorial board representing high school officials nationwide. So Tim.
Another power outage over there in Brooklyn Center?
No, I don't think so. I can hear him through my wall.
He needs to turn his mic on.
There you go. That's a referee's mistake. Here we go. Did you hear it? What's that sound? You need to hear it again? Did you hear it that time? What could that be? I know what it is. That's the sound encouraging you to venture down the officiating path. You can hear it, but you might be wondering about answering that call. So that I'm not remembered as that referee who tooted during a Zoom meeting, let me introduce myself. Jason did a nice job of it, but I'll just repeat it for those of you who maybe weren't paying attention. My name is Tim Layton, and I'm in my 30th year of officiating. I love officiating so much that I even wear my official shirt to work. That's how much I love officiating and representing the Minnesota State High School League. My officiating journey has included high school and college soccer, high school and college basketball, high school and college softball, and high school baseball. I'm a 30-year member of the Minneapolis Officials Association, a group that is celebrating its 100th anniversary of providing officiating services for both football and basketball. With MOA, I'm a longtime board member, including leadership as its president. And I tell you what an honor it is to serve in that capacity, to see the growth and continue the trend of officiating. Also, as a part of giving back to this avocation of officiating, I also represent all of you officials nationwide on the High School Today magazine editorial board. Now, High School Today magazine, that's a national publication of the National Federation. That's where we get our rule books for all of our activities. While I'm really thrilled to share information about my officiating journey, tonight is all about you. It's all about the new officials who are at the beginning of their journey wondering what next. What about those first steps and the necessary tools and information to be able to take those steps down that officiating path with confidence? I want to echo the messages from earlier that you've heard from some of the earlier presenters, and that's a huge note of congratulations and praise. That's to each and every one of you. You have made one of the biggest and best calls of your entire officiating career by choosing to be a part of this officiating forum tonight. But you may be at that point in time saying, what next? What do I do? Through your mind, there's all sorts of questions flowing. What next? You're at the starting line of that journey. What do I do next? I'm here to share with you some helpful information on selecting an association. And selecting an association is a critical first step in your officiating journey. Now, again, I shared all the questions that must be swirling through your mind right now, and here are a few of them on your screen right now. There are many associations, incredible associations to choose from in membership. When you're looking for your association, ask yourself a couple of questions. What do I look for? What will an association do for me in my growth and development as an official and as a person, and later on as a leader? Where do I find that list of officials associations? It's been shared a couple of times, but here it is again. On there, you will be exposed to about 100 different associations that are all a part of our network here with the Minnesota State High School League. Also, when you're looking, make sure the sports that you want to officiate are a part of that association list. Finding one that's geographically friendly, that's also an important part of what you want to do. You also look for assigners who you can develop a relationship with, someone who you can begin your networking, and someone who will build connections. Now, you aren't required to be a part of an association. There are many officials that we know who are independent, and that's okay. But joining one of the many associations out there is truly your best bet to be assigned games. Now, in most activities, there are more games than officials. I repeat, there are more games than officials. So you have the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to really excel down your path as an official. Now, don't let that fact feel daunted by that or feel pressure. Later on you're going to be hearing tips and other information on how to strike a balance between home life, your work life, and this wonderful world of officiating. Now, joining an association is also an important way to create those great connections that will help you with your growth and your development as an official. Especially key in this, and I've seen this a few times in the chat, is look for an association that offers mentorships. Now, mentorships, for those who may not be familiar with the term, the mentorships will pair a veteran official with a newer official like yourself. That mentor is there as a resource, a sounding board, and someone that will become a true supporter and cheerleader even in your officiating journey. They were once in your sneakers at one time. They are now giving back in the only way that they know how. They're sharing their highs and their lows and their challenges. If you've had a rough night in whatever activity you're officiating, that mentor is a resource for you to chat through what happened, and I can guarantee you, you will emerge a better official. I am truly grateful to all of the wonderful mentors that I've had in my career, and they were legends. They were legends that took me under their wings and showed me the way to go. Now, for the past 12 to 15 years or so, it's been my turn. I've had the privilege and the honor of taking younger officials like yourself, and even 3, 4, 5-year officials, taking them under my wing and continuing them to show the way. And I can guarantee you, for those of you who have been a mentor, you know the joy of what it's like to see your mentee advance, grow, and what a thrill to see your mentee work in a state tournament game. Mentors and other officials will also assist you in your goal setting. The best advice here, folks, is to be patient. Patience along your officiating journey. You likely aren't going to be assigned a boys basketball state championship game between Hopkins and Lakeville North. If hockey is your game, you may not be officiating a championship game between Eden Prairie and Hill Murray, especially in your first year. But these are wonderful goals. Set them. Go for it through membership in an association. Use those connections. Use those mentorships and the multitude of sub-varsity games to work so that you can be on that path and you can be prepared once you hit those marquee games, those big games. We will provide you with the tools that you can reach into your tool belt to be able to handle games, handle pressure situations. So, doesn't matter what your sport is. It could be this, it could be hockey, could be volleyball, it could be basketball, it could be football. Whatever the sport, whatever the activity, your time will indeed come. And we as an association members, our brothers and sisters in officiating, we can't wait to see you succeed. We're here for you. We're here to help you provide all the tools necessary for you to have an incredible officiating journey. We can't wait for you to join us on this path. Congratulations on being here tonight. Best wishes to you moving forward, and thanks everyone for your time and your attention. We'll be hanging around later on if you have any questions specifically, but with that, I turn it back to our MC, Jason. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Tim obviously has a passion for officiating and communicating in unique ways, so we're thankful that he was part of this, and he's a good resource for anyone that has questions moving forward. So our next presenter, John Garrett's. Officiating has been part of John's life since he was an undergraduate student. In his 20 years as a high school league official, he's worked around class schedules, internships, coaching, different jobs, grad school, weddings, a wedding day officiating request, the birth of his daughter, long daily commutes, and flight cancellations, which I can relate to almost all of those things. He also flew out of Newark, New Jersey at 6 a.m. to umpire a 10 a.m. state tournament game. So that shows you he's committed to his craft. So he's going to speak about mixing officiating into a busy life. Sounds like he has good experience with that.
Thanks, Jason. All right, and thank you, Tim. I won't have the props that you were able to share with the group today, but I'll do my best here to give some tips and tricks to our new officials. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. Thanks to Jason, the Minnesota State High School League, for the opportunity to be here tonight. Tough act to follow, the acts of Mike Spanier, Jason, Brett, and Tim. So I'll do the best I can here. As you heard in my bio, I've been officiating for a long time. When I was thinking about this presentation, I realized how fortunate I was to be asked to present on this specific topic. Maybe it's because the people organizing this know a lot more than I do. Between Jason, Laura, and probably everyone else, including a few of you on the call tonight who I've actually worked with, you know that my ability to coordinate the logistics of making my next officiating assignment, well, far exceeds my ability to actually officiate. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here. If you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I've been following along in the chat, and that's another great resource as well. So as those questions come up, let us know, please. To add just a couple of things, I did participate in high school sports when I was growing up. I've officiated for the Minnesota State High School League for 20 years, also served as a college baseball umpire. I've coached for several years at a variety of levels, a little bit of football, a little bit of baseball, a little bit of basketball. I currently serve on the board for 2 local officiating associations, and I've also navigated officiating as an employee both in the private sector and the public sector. So I've done all sorts of logistical things to try to make it work. How I got started, well, my why has kind of evolved over time, but many years ago when I first got started, I was that college student taking 17 credits per semester, and I needed to find a gig that paid the bills, yet didn't require me to work 30 hours a week. And also finding time to study and work around a 17 credit course schedule. So officiating at the time checked all of those boxes. It gave me the flexibility to choose a schedule that worked for me. Whether it was 1 day a week, whether it was 7 days a week, whether it was games in the evening, whether it was games during the day on Saturdays and Sundays. That was the main benefit for me in getting into officiating, is it gave me the flexibility to pick my schedule. I legitimately could be as busy as I wanted to be. And I think you heard someone else say earlier that there are more games than there are officials. And that is definitely true. And it's probably true in every sport or activity that you might be interested in. You see, I have pictures of baseball here, but maybe you're somebody on here who's interested in gymnastics, track and field, volleyball, dance, hockey. There are more games than there are officials. And so you can be as busy as you want to be. I don't know if any of you have read Simon Sinek, but Simon Sinek says to start with why. The why is the purpose, the cause, or belief that drive every one of us. So why are you here today? When it comes to officiating, what's your why? You don't have to have the same why as the next person. For every person who wants to give back to the game that gave so much to them, maybe the next person just wants to make enough money so they can pay this month's rent. There's not a right or wrong why to get into officiating. Everybody has their own reasons. Do you want to stay involved in that particular sport? Do you want a flexible opportunity to be involved in your community and get paid? Do you want to give back to a sport, activity, or community? Do you want to advance through the ranks into collegiate or professional sports, as you heard from Mike Spanier today? Do you like having the best seat in the house? It's one thing that I like about officiating is that there's no such thing as nosebleed seats in officiating. You're definitely right in the middle of all of the action. So if that's something that you enjoy, maybe officiating is for you as well. We are all busy. And regardless of where you are in your life, if you're an undergraduate student, if you're getting close to retirement, if you're somewhere in between, if you're somewhere on the outside of either of those ranges, officiating can be for you. We still have 24 hours in each of those days, right? So, you might, if you're on the call today, maybe you're thinking, obviously you want to get into officiating. That's why you're here tonight. But maybe you're thinking about where you're going to find the time. And as I said before, that's the great thing about officiating. Officiating can work for you, and it can fit into your busy lifestyle. In my 20 years, there have been times where I've worked more games than there are days in a month. I've had times where I've worked only 1 day per week. There have been times where I haven't worked for months. When I was working in the private sector, there was a time where I could only work night games because I was commuting from the metro area up into the St. Cloud area. And so the time it took for me to get from point A to point B only permitted me to work games in that area and at night. And so my game volume was impacted by that, but that was my choice. Believe it or not, as you heard Jason say, I even got a call to work a game on my wedding day. That is not a joke. It's absolutely true. The funny part about that was the assigner at the time, he didn't believe me. He didn't believe that I actually was getting married that day, and he thought maybe I could sneak a couple games in before I walked down the aisle to take my vows. I suppose maybe we should have included the assigner on our guest list. I guess my point is if you're open to making officiating a part of your life, regardless of your availability, you can experience the benefits of officiating high school activities. If you're not sure kind of what that's going to look like, my advice again would be to start small and make it work for you and let it grow from there. I have had the experience of knowing people who have come out more aggressive than they maybe should have initially, and then they've had to dial it way back. So your situation best, but it might be wise to make a more calculated approach as you start. But that's kind of what we'll talk about here as we continue the session. As you heard Jason say, I did have a point in my officiating career where I took a 6 a.m. flight out of Newark, New Jersey to Minneapolis to be on time for the pregame umpire meeting at Midway Stadium later that same morning. My goal was to fly in the night before, but that flight got canceled. And so what do officials do in tough situations? We make lemonade. I was able to take the 6 a.m. flight, and I got an hour back because I was flying from the East Coast to the Central Time Zone. Absolutely true story. Everything worked out perfectly. Exciting. That day I got to work first base in the state tournament as Grand Rapids upset Chaska, and pitcher, now Cleveland Indians closer Brad Hand, 1-0. What a game. And now I know he's on the call. He's probably in the chat answering all the questions, but communicating with the legendary umpire-in-chief, Larry Gallagher. Larry, I know you're out there. Larry helped make that smooth and stress-free for me. We had been communicating about this a couple weeks in advance, so he knew everything was happening and what that was going to look like, up to and including making it work on game day. So Larry, again, thanks for working with me on that unique challenge. Sharing that story helps me transition into 3 tips to help make officiating work for you. Let's call those the 3 C's. The first one is to communicate. You've heard other people talk about that. You heard Mike talk about it. You heard Tim talk about it. You heard Jason talk about it. Communication is an extremely important part of officiating. That's part of why sports need officials, is we have to communicate to the game's participants what we have and what we see. We communicate to the crowd, the coaches. If you're fortunate enough to work games for the television, we have to be good communicators on the field and off the field. So making that work for you, well, as we talked about before, communicate your why to those who will help make officiating work for you. Communicate with your significant other if that's part of your family situation. I know before I got married, my officiating was part of our conversation as to what that was going to look like moving forward. And so decide for yourself where that piece fits and who you need to communicate with to make that work. Communicate with your supervisor at your main job. Communicate with your assigner if you're working with an officials association. Assigners love officials who communicate. Keep him or her in the loop as to what your plans are and what your availability is. If something, maybe you weren't available and now you are available, assigners love to know that as well. Be that person who's available, especially if you're new and getting into it. The more that you are able to be available, the more it will help you. But again, everybody has different availability, so do what makes sense for you in your situation. Very, very few officials are fortunate enough to be full-time officials with no other primary source of income. Certainly Mike and Jason and those who work very high levels know that even though the game fees increase quite a bit, the higher you go, those officials still have other jobs. And so communicating becomes a big part of that. When you're talking with your supervisor at work, it will be helpful to have a plan. Be proactive and have that plan detailing how you're going to fulfill your employer's job requirements and yet still be able to make your officiating requirements. Find a way to make your officiating relevant to your primary occupation. Maybe your public exposure as an official can help your employer in some way. Maybe you're in college to earn a teaching degree and you schedule yourself to officiate 7th and 8th grade volleyball matches in districts you'd be interested in teaching after graduation. Communicate to those school officials that you're in school for teaching and you'd love an opportunity to work in that district. Throughout my officiating career, I've been fortunate to have bosses who have embraced my identity as an official. And that's something that I've been transparent about, even in job interviews that I've had. This is something that I do. I've done it for this long. Here's some of the benefits that it can bring to your company. Communicate. A very, very important piece of being a successful official. Many sports, even at the highest levels, require communication and coordination with the other people in your life. The next C is coordinate. Now that you've communicated your why to your personal stakeholders, it's also helpful if you coordinate the details around your officiating so that you can actually officiate. As a college student, I had to coordinate with myself. As I got older, I had to coordinate with more stakeholders in order to make that work. The more things that I could take care of and show that everything was getting done, the greater my chances I would get to continue officiating. I remember a specific time in my officiating career where I would finish my job in one city. I would pick up our daughter from daycare. I would drive east, roughly 20 miles to a truck stop where my wife would come up, and we'd meet at that truck stop, and we'd exchange the baby carrier with our child in it. And she would head home, and then I would head back to where I came from to officiate my contest, and then head back home. 3 or 4 trips to make it work. It involved a lot of coordination. And again, the more that I could do to make it easier for those around me, the more I was able to increase my chances at continuing to make officiating work for me. From a family standpoint, again, like I said, if you have kids, who's picking up your child or children from daycare? If that's not the situation, what does that look like? Who's gonna make the pickup? If you go to a daycare center and that daycare center needs the name and the identity of that person, make sure that you're in charge of that. So that when you're out officiating, it's typically not a practice to have your phone with you as you're officiating, and so you have to take care of that stuff on the front end. Nobody's really going to be able to get a hold of you while you're working your contest. We had a shared calendar that was we had both a paper copy and an electronic copy with my officiating dates, with all the appropriate details and what was happening around that. If that's something that would be a benefit to you, those are things that are out there and free of charge to have those shared collaborative calendars. You want to coordinate a plan that works for you and those around you. So remember to coordinate and make those things work, to make officiating work for you, right? And finally, probably the best part of the whole thing is to celebrate. So you've communicated your why to your personal stakeholders. You've coordinated the details of your game assignments to ensure all of the wheels in the background are still spinning. And now you've walked off of the playing area of the contest you just officiated with your head held high. Maybe it was a high five or a knuckle bump to your officiating partner or partners. In the world now of social distancing, maybe it's an air high five or an air knuckles. Maybe it's a phone call or a text to one of your officiating buddies about the craziest play you had in your game. Or maybe it's a call home to say goodnight to your family because maybe you've got a little bit of a drive home. Those are all things that are important. And I think it's important if you have those loved ones in your circle, keep those people relevant. It will keep all aspects of your life in balance. Still being able to go out and love officiating. Remember to take time and celebrate. Be proud of what it is you're doing. As Mike said very early on in this session today, take time to meet and get to know other officials. Make time for that post-game burger with your fellow officials. Some of us still have a group text that even though we're all finishing at different sites, we decide that we're maybe going to meet up at XYZ place and have a post game, talk about how the games went and what went well, what we can do better last time, those types of things. Again, make time for your family or loved ones. If you find that you've been doing a lot of officiating, block some time off and schedule a game with your family or your loved ones. Communicating, coordinating, and celebrating, again, will help make officiating work for you. I want to thank you for your time. If you have questions, again, feel free to send me an email. You have my contact information. Laura and Jason, if we have any questions that came up in the chat, if those weren't covered, I can follow up with those as we continue down the next session. So again, thank you very much. Again, thank you to the High School League for the opportunity to be here tonight.
You bet. Thanks, John. Yeah, I I think that's one of the most important aspects to keep in mind as you get going on this journey is don't feel obligated that you need to work 6 nights a week. Officiating is pretty flexible. You can work as little or as much as you want. And associations and assigners and schools can make that work. But don't feel like if I don't work a bunch of games, that they won't keep me coming back. They'll find opportunities for you. So I think that's an important aspect to remember. And then if you do find yourself working a number of games, just remember to try to keep it in balance because your family and your work is important as well. So the next piece here, we're going to have a few folks from across the state who officiate a variety of sports that we have are going to speak to their experience as an official. So they're going to bring their voice to this application. And I think it's important for folks to remember that the high school league just doesn't have football and basketball and baseball. We have gymnastics, dance team, adapted sports. Our adapted sports need officials as well. We have 18 sports that need officials and judges. So it's important to know that we have that. We need officials for all those, and we're proud of all of our officials that work our games and our events. And so we want to hear from some of these folks. So first up, officiating voice, Jenny Smith from Woodbury, Minnesota. She has been a gymnastics official with the league for 18 years. She's held a variety of leadership roles in gymnastics, including serving as president of the Minnesota Girls Gymnastics Officials Association, high school league gymnastics clinician, state gymnastics judge, officials advisory committee member, and gymnastics coach for over 20 years at all age levels. Outside of gymnastics, Jenny enjoys downhill skiing, traveling, and spending time with her family and friends. Take it away, Jenny.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. And thank you to everybody that's presented so far. I love hearing everybody's experience. Thank you to everybody that's attending tonight. We are super excited you're here, and we're thrilled that you're interested in becoming an official. I think it was Tim that mentioned this, but I too love everything there is about officiating gymnastics. I don't wear my shirt around the house, so Tim, kudos to you on that. But I have a real strong passion for gymnastics. How I got started a little bit, similar to other people that spoke earlier, I had a couple of gymnastics coaches my high school year of gymnastics, and then a couple of teachers actually. Oh, I think we lost, screen share. A couple of teachers that encouraged me to become an official my senior year in high school. I'll tell you, I was extremely hesitant. I was super nervous. I'm like, there's no way I can be an official. Like that's way over here. But those people got me connected with the right people to get started. That you could tell they had a passion for gymnastics as well and wanted to recruit young officials to stay in the sport, whether it was coaching or officiating. So I did it. I looked into becoming a judge, and I haven't looked back a day since. But I do remember my first, even my second year, you guys, I was so nervous. I questioned whether or not I was really cut out and fit to be an official. But I believe Jason and a couple other people mentioned that we have a fantastic mentor program. I got real comfortable sitting next to other experienced officials, and a lot of them took me under their wing, which to this day I'm super thankful for. They talked me through, for in gymnastics you take deductions, so they talked me through what deductions they took on each skill. They broke it down onto giving me different ideas on how to become a good official. And after a few competitions, actually, it became a lot easier pretty quickly. As Jason mentioned, I'm a president of one of our Twin Cities associations, the Minnesota Girls Gymnastics Officials Association. We have a training program to ensure you are set up for success. we will make sure that you are ready to go before we assign you new games. I'm super thankful to be part of such an awesome group of officials. I've met so many great people, not only judges, but coaches, other gymnasts, athletic directors, and staff from the high school league. They not only taught me a lot about myself, but they've shown me what a great experience officiating can be. I keep coming back year over year. I've been doing this for 18 years. I keep coming back year over year just for the love of the sport. As an official, you make a positive impact and you connect with other fellow judges. I'll tell you right now, I cannot do any of the flips, twists, turns, any of that. I cannot do it anymore, but I still love staying involved in the sport and giving back to the sport that I was in throughout my high school career and before that. I talked a little bit about making connections with other judges. During the off season, so gymnastics is a winter sport, we don't see each other too often, but every year it's just like picking up where you left off last year. It's usually on a negative 30-degree wind chill on a cold, dark night, but we come in and we do it because we love it so much. So if you're thinking about becoming an official, which because you're here, you already are thinking about becoming official, I would say absolutely go for it. Don't be nervous that you won't do a good job. You will. We all have tools and resources to help you along the way. Know that you will definitely make a positive impact in high school athletics. Whenever you need something, please reach out to others for help. We have a lot of great programs to set everybody out for success. So sign up, learn more, meet new people. It will be a great experience. And you won't regret it. So again, I just want to thank everybody for attending. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate that perspective. Now we're going to hear from Scott Munson. Scott has been a legal official for over 25 years, officiating football, basketball, baseball, and softball. He has officiated Prep Bowl championship games and state girls basketball as well. Scott started the Glacial Lakes Area Football Officials Association in the Morris, Starbuck, and Benson area. He also officiated football in the DAC, the MCAC, and served as a football official assigner in the MCAC. Scott is a 31-year educator, having been a teacher, coach, principal, and superintendent, and he will start a new position on July 1st as a business developer for SiteLog IQ. Scott, his wife Allison, and daughter Logan live in Marshall, Minnesota. So take it away, Scott.
Hey, thank you, Jason. Glad to be here this evening, and really glad that we've got the number of potential officials interested in participating in this. Like Jason said, I've been an educator for 31 years and officiating for a long time. And you know, I got started as an official. I used to do some slow pitch softball umpiring when I was in college just to make a little bit of money. And Jerry Dolbert from Detroit Lakes, who was one of my mentors, one of many, told me one day, I think it was at the end of a long tournament in August, he said, "You're going to be doing football with me this year." And I'd never even thought about officiating football or anything else. And just one person encouraging me to do that has made a lot of difference, a lot of positive difference in my life. And I said, "Why would I do that?" And he said, "Why not?" And now 25 years later, that's absolutely true. Why not? Why not officiate? Why not give it a try? As an educator, whether that be as a teacher, a coach, a principal, or for the last 16 years as a superintendent, one of the things, and John referenced this a little bit, one of the things that I've really found in officiating is that many of the things that I experience or that are a part of being an official have really helped me in my career in education. You know, things like studying and putting in the time to do a good job, just the work ethic aspect of things. Teamwork, obviously, whether I'm working a basketball game with 2 other officials or a football game with 4 other officials, being a part of a team and the importance of that is something that I have applied in my career as well. Leadership efforts, like Jason said, starting a football officials association, being an assigner both at the high school and the college level has helped me to become even more organized and grow my leadership skills. Certainly there's common sense opportunities and chances to problem solve. It seems like every game there's some sort of, I don't know if it's a problem, but a challenge or a situation that comes up, and you have to process that, or I do, and sometimes quickly, and sort of figure out a way to work through that. And that is really, at least in education, something that's been very beneficial for me. Also, I think just the support that I feel like I've been able to offer to younger or oftentimes even veteran officials, and the support that I've got from them as well. That's something that I find every day in my job. Criticism, I think we'd be dishonest if we said that there won't be times when you'll be criticized as an official. That comes with the job, but how to handle that is something that we don't often experience in life, and through officiating, the few times that it does happen, I've also been able to apply that in my job as a superintendent. Last winter, 2 winters ago, for example, getting up at 4:30 every morning, and it seemed like every morning, and trying to decide if we were going to have school or not because of the weather and all the days of school that we missed. And getting that criticism, especially now on social media, was difficult, but I'd been through some of that as an official as well. So officiating helped me with that. And the other thing I think is, or another thing is just the reflection. All of us, when we get done officiating a game, we tend to reflect a lot on how did that go? Did I get that call right? We've got our rule books out, or now it's on our cell phone. Most of us have our rule books on our cell phone, and we're looking things up and we're reflecting. And I think that can be really helpful in almost every profession as well. Obviously, many of us started officiating because we had a sports background. I've said before, and I actually used this at one of our preschool workshops, I said, the only time I'm going to run is if I'm being chased or if I'm getting paid for it. And it's funny, but the exercise aspect of officiating is kind of a common sense benefit, but it's very true. And my job as a superintendent, 80, 90-hour weeks are not uncommon, and it's really hard to take an hour and a half off, for example, to go and exercise. But especially during the basketball season, when I'm working, anywhere from 30 to 50 games, I get a lot of exercise, and it's really good for me. Another health or wellness aspect of officiating for me is stress relief. A lot of my colleagues, when they say, why do you officiate? And I give them a bunch of reasons, but one of those reasons is stress relief. I'm able to go onto a football field or a baseball field, basketball court, and for, 2, 3, 4 hours or whatever, I don't think about anything except for the student athletes, the coaches, my fellow officials, and it's just a great way for me to unwind. And honestly, I don't know where I would be without officiating from an anxiety and stress perspective. Another aspect, and I think this is true for a lot of us, I love to compete, but I don't necessarily love to compete with others. I do. It's kind of fun sometimes, especially if I'm better at something than they are. But I love the competition aspect of officiating. For me is more about myself and striving to get better and sort of striving for perfection. And I think that goes back to the reflection piece. Just after every game, whether I'm with my fellow officials or whether I'm driving somewhere alone, I will spend 30 to 45 minutes just thinking about that game and what could I have done better? Was I as professional as I needed to be? Did I communicate as well? as I could have with the coaches and with the players. And that's sort of my opportunity to compete with myself as I try to get better at whatever it is, football, basketball, softball, or baseball, or whatever. Everybody on this event, I think this evening, will talk about friendships and memories. And that is absolutely true. I think it's a crucial aspect, positive aspect of officiating. As I was scrolling through the list of participants this evening, I saw a lot of familiar names, a lot of friends, folks who I've known for 20 plus years and have a lot of stories about some I couldn't tell probably. But I've been really blessed, honestly, and fortunate to make so many friends through officiating that I otherwise would not have met and not have been able to have the relationships with, and just be able to pick up the phone when I have a question or when I need something or if I need to vent or whatever. And I really consider the friendships and the memories, other than Allison and my wife Allison and my daughter Logan. I will remember whenever God says I'm done on earth, I will remember officiating. I'll think a lot about that. Other than them, I just have incredible memories from the 25 years that I've been officiating, and I'd say 97% of them are positive, and just that list goes on and on and on. So again, congratulations for taking this step to start the process of maybe becoming an official. I would go back to what Jerry Dobert told me back in 95 when he said, "Why wouldn't you? Why not officiate?" And ask yourself that, because there's so many positive reasons to do that. So, best of luck, and if I can be of any assistance, please reach out. And thank you to the State High School League.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Keenan Moore. Keenan began his officiating career at the age of 24 and now has 18 years of officiating experience, including all levels of amateur basketball. Keenan has officiated in the high school state tournament for the last 8 years, and he is also a middle school dean and athletic director in St. Paul.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you guys tonight. I am grateful and honored to have this opportunity to speak. For all the younger students that are in college and you are looking for something, from 19 to 24, that's actually how I made extra money on the side between school and trying to figure out life and everything else. And then it was when I turned 24 that I just said, hey, this is what I love. I coached football and track at Minneapolis Washburn for 17 years. It was a great time. And at one point in time, it was coaching football, basketball, and track. And then, of course, once family started, my wife did tell me, like, hey, you got to give something up. So I gave up coaching basketball. But I stayed involved because I got involved with officiating basketball. And it was a lot easier because I was able to pick my schedule and pick and choose and with my availability, and it allowed me to be home a little bit more and everything else like that. I did this because I love connecting with youth at all levels. And this is an opportunity for me to continue to connect with them, to continue to coach them as well. I do believe, great officials that are out there, especially in basketball, we have that opportunity to speak and connect to those athletes during games. It's just all about making those connections with them, especially if the athletes are coming up to you and say, hey, what did I do? Can you explain to me? Absolutely. And just give them the pointers that they need. Starting out, I had great mentors that really pushed me. I know when I started, we were really starting to phase in 3-man, and so had a couple mentors that I had some great games with in 2-man games, and then was able to get into some 3-man officiating as well. I'll be honest with you, nervous as a mug, scared. I still get scared. I still get the jitters, but once I get that first blow into my whistle, it just relaxes me. Just like other officials you heard tonight. To me, being able to have the opportunity to officiate is like a home away from home. It reduces stress from my life. It allows me to give back, and it allows me to continue to just connect with others. I do know that we are in need of a lot of officials, and we have great officials out there that will be mentors and would love to be a mentor. I know for me personally, I would love to have that opportunity. And what I've learned is not about getting the big game all the time. It's about just connecting. It's about getting better. And I was always told to always make sure when you step on that court, you be the best official for that game at that level. And it's all about also being confident and not cocky. If you're cocky, it's going to be a bad time for you. But if you're confident, it's going to be a good flow. You're going to receive respect from the coaches and the players, and heck, even the fans. And that will go a long way. It's just been a blessing to be able to be out on the court for these past 18 years. God willing that I continue to have another 18 years or more. I know for me personally, also being an athletic director, I treat every official that comes into my gym with, hey, how you doing? And just thank them so much, because we are thankful for the time that they are putting into these kids so that they can continue to finish their dreams. So if there's anything that you're going to take from me today, please, please, please be that person in their life during that hour and a half to 2 hours or 4 hours of the game or match that they're going to be experiencing. Give back to them, because we all know somebody gave back to you. So I just ask that you all take this opportunity, pat yourself on the back for taking the first step to your officiating career. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Keenan. Very good advice. And as an activities director, I'm sure he's hiring correctly, so give him a call.
Yes.
Next, we have 3 more voices. Next, MJ Wagonson has been a sports official for 30 years in both the interscholastic and intercollegiate ranks. She's worked basketball and softball, and recently has added football to her schedule. MJ lives in the southeast area of the state and is an active member of the Rochester Area Officials Association. She has held a number of offices for the association, as well as a charter clinician. MJ is the league's regional coordinator for basketball and has served on the officials advisory committee and has worked on developing curriculum for the league's library, which will be available on our new site. As a profession, MJ is an educator at RCTC, teaching sport management, health, and physical education. Take it away, MJ.
Okay, well, just a couple of quick things about officiating. How did I get involved? I'll be honest with you. It was mentioned earlier, I needed some money, and I was in college. So that kind of spurred me to get started. But I love sports, was always involved, and that's really the driving force behind it. But what got me in really was the people. What kept me in for 30 years is the people. Why I stay in and work at this year round is the people. And, to just go back and look at the best part of all of that, the people. When I started officiating in college, I made $4 a game. I worked with one of my college buddies, and I was rich because I worked 3 games every Saturday morning. I went to the grocery store. I had food for a week. That tells you how old I am, because I've been officiating 30 years. But it really has kind of provided some other opportunities. Like Mike mentioned earlier, for me, it's kind of maybe mad money or extra cash, or puts tires on your car or whatever. So that's a plus to it. But the best part is you get to spend your time with some great people. One of the things that I got into officiating into the high school ranks as I was at a game. And I said, I think I can do that. And the person I was at the game with said, well, you need to talk to that ref because you already kind of know who that is. Well, and I did once they told me who that person was. And so I talked to them. They got me into officiating. They were my mentor for, well, kind of still are. Okay. And one of the things that everybody's talked about is having a mentor. And I'll be honest with you, I've got mentors from the very beginning, okay, that got me started over 30 years ago. And I have mentors that I've met in the last couple of years. It might be officials that are 10 years in or 15 years in that can help me rule study, help me break down video, whatever the case might be. We all help mentor each other. I got to work with Keenan a couple years ago. I'd never met him before. You just heard from him. He's a fantastic official. And we had a great game. So just, the people is what really keeps us doing this and really keeps us going. My mentor 30 plus years ago that got me started sent me to a meeting just like this one, only it was face to face. And that's what really got me going. Is I went to a high school league meeting and I learned all the ins and outs and ups and downs, and join an association if you can. This is where you see this on the website. And it just got me, again, connected with a couple more people that could help me, that I could reach out to answer questions. And it's that helped me schedule those games. That's the plus of being part of an association. You get education. You get to meet a lot of cool people that are doing the same thing you are, and they can help you and be resources for you. They can schedule games for you so you're not out looking for your own games. Just a lot of pluses and positives to belonging to association, and that camaraderie of you all working toward a common goal of providing those fantastic opportunities to those student athletes. Without them, without the athletes, we wouldn't have anything to do, but without us, they wouldn't be able to have a game. Kevin Merkel used to say, without the officials, it's just recess. And just remember that, somebody provided that opportunity for you, whether you were a starter or a bench warmer, it doesn't matter. You were part of a team and you understand that whole concept of competition, and somebody provided that opportunity for you. They gave up their Wednesday night to come out and ref your game or ump your game. We're doing the same thing. So that's the excitement, the atmosphere, the environment, providing that safe and fair competition for those athletes. Like Keenan mentioned, allowing them to complete their dreams, just like we did. Being part of those exciting moments, whether it's a kid that scores 1,000 point and you stop the game and present them the ball, or it's a kid that gets their first base hit ever. You can tell just the way they run down the baseline and the way the dugout erupts. Those are exciting moments. All right. And the other piece, I mentioned to start with, it's about the people. Somebody else mentioned earlier about the fans. Absolutely. You get to know them. They come to games. Their parents, their grandparents, they're sports junkies just like we are. We wouldn't be all there in the same place. Fellow officials, coaches, athletes, ADs, fantastic people. And they all want the same thing. We might come at it a little different approach, but we all want the best opportunity that we can provide that night or that day for that group of kids. Nobody cares where you were last night. Nobody cares where you're going tomorrow night. What is it that we're doing here tonight? It might not be the big game, but they're all big games to those kids. So we go out, we provide the opportunity. We get to see some fantastic sports, and we get to have a great time with great people. You start officiating, you hear people talk about, maybe started it in college, maybe somebody asked me. I've seen people over the years get bit by the bug. Boy, I'll tell you, you're addicted. Jenny talked about the passion. It's there. If it wasn't there, we wouldn't do rule study all summer long for football or basketball or hockey or gymnastics. Those gymnastics and dance team people, I've been on the officials advisory board. I hear how much training they do. Boy, you are prepared when you step into a meet. So they just do all kinds of fantastic things to train and help people. Our association, we do a lot of training. I know a lot of associations do. We have 5 sports in the Rochester area that we cover. just from our association, plus there's a wrestling association, there's hockey association, lacrosse, soccer, they all do training. Nobody's going to throw you to the wolves. So I think Keenan said, give yourself a pat on the back for taking the first step, and know that you're not just going to get pitched out there and everybody's going to just say good luck. One thing I want to say, somebody said something earlier about the fans yelling. Just remember, if you have a fan that yells, there's 10 people sitting around that one fan thinking that you're doing a great job. Focus on those 10. Okay. I'm just going to wrap it up. You know, I mentioned I've been doing this for over 30 years. When I first started officiating, I did it for the exercise. Now, I noticed somebody else said something about fitness earlier. Now I exercise so I can officiate. But it is a fantastic avocation. It's a fantastic hobby. You're going to meet super people, lots of folks that are willing to help you out. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ. All great resources, all of these folks. Kevin Britt, 13 years registered with the league, basketball and football, works Division II football in the Northern Sun, member of the Officials Advisory Committee, Minneapolis Officials Association board member, has worked multiple state basketball tournament games, and has worked a state championship in football. Kevin Britt.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking up some time tonight to listen to us, give you some information that could be helpful for you to pursue officiating. I'm going to keep mine pretty brief because I don't want to I'm going to be piggybacking off of a lot of things that were said earlier. But just getting involved in officiating, a lot of people get involved in college to make some money. I got involved a little bit earlier. My dad was the first person to get me involved. He was a longtime official with the State High School League. And one day in the summer, he came home from his regular job and he said, hey, you're going with me tonight. And we went and worked a summer league basketball game. I played basketball in high school. You know, getting out there on the floor as an official on that side, it was a little different, but I really enjoyed it. You know, there's things that you can take out of officiating, especially when you played. But I'm going to say one of the things that I learned early when I got back into it and getting registered with the league is you will have challenges in games. But one way to get through those challenges is to know your rules. Rules are important because when you're questioned by coaches, players, if you can give them an answer that's rule-based, there's not much they can combat that with. So make sure that you're getting in your rule book, you know your rules, and you're taking that time with fellow officials. I have a group text with some officials that we shoot plays back and forth and want to give the rule into it. And if you have to go to your rule book, that's fine. But you need to know this information. One of the keys to getting involved in officiating is timing. Make sure that you are personally and professionally ready to get into this. This is something that can give you a supplement income, extra income, but personally and professionally with your family, make sure, you know, with me now, I have older kids now. I'll have a junior in high school, freshman in high school, and a sixth grader. All are in different activities. So now with setting my schedule, football, it's Friday, Saturday. I know that in the fall. But basketball, I basically schedule around what my children are doing. That's just how it goes now. And I'm okay with that because they only get to do this for so long. Another thing is having support from your family. Like John said earlier, you know, communicating with your wife or your spouse or your partner, just making sure that you guys are all on the same page. But as officials, we have to remember that we provide a service. These kids are playing a game that they love, and it's not just at the varsity level. There's ninth grade, there's sophomore, JV. Go out and give them the best effort that you can because they're going to go out and give the best effort when they're competing. And another thing is just have fun. Have fun, be willing to learn, listen to veteran officials, they are willing to help out. I've learned a lot from officials that have been doing this for 30 years. I've learned from officials that have been doing this for 5 years. One of my goals when I go out and ref basketball, I try to learn something new every game, because you can always learn something, and that's important. You know, reflecting on this whole journey, it's just the relationships that I've built, the friendships that I've built. You know, you get to know coaches on a personal level. You get to know officials that you work with on a personal level, and just building friendships, trusting in one another on the court, off the court. And it's always a learning experience and something that you can do, you know, for a long time. You know, the reason I do this, honestly, is I do it for the kids first. I just feel that the kids want that opportunity to play, and if we're not there to officiate, they don't get to play. I mean, I enjoy this so much. I still officiate youth football during the weeknights in my area, because those kids want to play football, and I feel that I have something to offer. I can teach at that level, and it's rewarding. And it's not just, you know, I don't do it for the money. I do it because I enjoy doing it, and that's, you know, the main thing. And then the last, you know, part of advice that I have for you guys is to just have fun doing it. You know, embrace it. It'll be a challenge at time, but have fun. You know, it's okay to smile. You know, I work basketball games, and we'll pregame before a game. And the last thing I always try to tell my crew is smile. Make sure, you know, let people know that you're happy to be there. That's the thing. You know, it's a job, but you're doing it because you love it. So that's all I have. I mean, I appreciate you, Jason, for inviting me. Thank you for your time, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I told Kevin that, you know, we have a lot of new officials that are coming in that are parents, and their kids are just getting out of sports, and they need to officiate the sport that their kids played. So Kevin's taking up hockey starting next year. He doesn't know that. So next, Becky Blissenbach. She's the league's regional coordinator for dance team. She's been officiating for 16 years. She has served in the role of superior judge at several section and state tournaments, and has previously served on the board of directors for the Judges Association of Minnesota Dance Teams. Becky is a high school math and statistics teacher by day, and often feels like a chauffeur by night for her busy family. She lives in Sauk Rapids with her husband, John, and children, Ella, Olivia, and Ethan. Take it away, Becky.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. So while officiating isn't my only job, it's not my day job, it is a job that I absolutely love and hope to continue doing for a long time. So I was on my high school dance team, and then I went to college and coached for a little while. And then when I got my first full-time job, I thought I need to somehow stay involved in this sport. So what can I do without having the commitment that I think coaches have? And that's what got me into officiating, and it was the best decision that I ever did. And so at the time, I was young, just out of college. It was pretty easy to fit things in schedule then. But as you heard, since then, I've had 3 kids, and we've always managed to make it work. My husband travels for work regularly, and as other people talked about before, it's just talking to each other, making a plan, making sure that we can fit it in. And it always has been. So that balance piece is a lot easier than you would think. And I have to be honest, when I had little kids, every year before I registered, I would think, gosh, should I just not do it this year? Do I want that time back for myself? And then I would say, no, I just should. And I'd register, and I would get to that first meet, and I'd be up in the stands. And the second that music would start and I'd be feeling a little bit nervous, I remember, nope, this is exactly why I'm here. There is an energy at high school events and even lower level events that just cannot be beat. There's something so exciting about seeing that athleticism, the emotion of the athletes, the cheers of those spectators that just love every part of it. And whether it's at a super big venue or something really small, it's just a special thing to be a part of. And so I never want to give it up. And so I have been honored to be at section meets and the state tournament. I absolutely love state tournaments, all of them. But I do think it's really important to remember that every single Minnesota team is deserving of great officials, and every single event that I'm at has always been just as enjoyable. Even those really small venues, you've got kids that have passion and love and want to be there, and so it's just really fun to be a part of that too. And I always try to remember that this is about the kids. It's not as much about us. We're just trying to help to make sure that they have that opportunity to showcase what they've been working on. So I am in the dance team side, which is a little bit different. We don't have to wear a uniform. My main tool that I need is my pen and a piece of paper in front of me. However, you know, we're trained in our skills as other sports are too. And in ours, I think just as with other sports, there's a lot of different opportunities. Like you can judge, you can also do kick count timing, there's tabulating, a lot of different ways to be involved depending on what you're willing to be a part of. So I will say some of the greatest things that I've loved about doing this too is how many friends that I've made throughout this experience. Oftentimes I leave a meet and I'm calling them just to kind of re-talk about how things were going. Always trying to grow and get better and learn from each other, from everybody that's new to all of our veterans. As far as what another great thing about dance team in particular, we only have one association, which means that they assign the entire state. So I get the opportunity to see lots of different teams, and so in joining that association, and really in all sports, getting in that association is going to help with getting you some placements. So I think coming up soon next, Jason will be talking about there's going to be some opportunities to check in with some of those associations. I know that the Dance Team Association Jam will have a Zoom session after this, so you can get a little bit more sports specific questions. So I'll kick it back to you, Jason.
All right, thanks, Becky. Yeah, thanks to all these outstanding officials for sharing their experience. It's great to hear the varied and unique experience of officials who serve across the 18 sports that we have. What they all have in common with all of you is they were willing to take that first step, and then they stuck with it. They had mentors, they had others to help them. And we will be here for you in your journey as you go forward. So we're thankful that you chose to join us this evening. We are going to have Laura cover the association roundtables. So for those interested in connecting with the association and asking sport-specific or area-specific questions, Laura will cover that at this point.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks again to all of our presenters. What a great night to hear from a lot of different people who participate in a number of different activities. Again, this microsite that you went to register will remain up and active at least until our new website is built and up. Some of the pieces on here, the presenter tab has each of our presenters tonight, bio and contact information. And again, they all indicated an interest in helping, supporting, mentoring you, however that might work out. The tab that is the Ready to Become an Official tab has the list of associations across Minnesota by sport and by geographic area. Jason and Pam will tomorrow share out, or soon, the list of people who attended tonight with associations. So when we move you into talk with associations, if there is one that you, if there's not one for you to attend tonight based on sport and area of the state, know that they may be reaching out to you because we'll share that information. The list down below is the state and regional rules coordinators. And again, those are by sport, and you see the city of the person there. So those are just another, that's just another great person to reach out to. Just a reminder, down at the bottom are the sports that the State High School League uses officials for. And somewhat hidden down at the very bottom is the link to go in and actually register with Arbiter when you're ready to take that step. And I believe that's also on the front page. The forum access information, this section, again, is how you got here tonight. The sheet down below it are the associations who are who have told us they are ready and willing to talk with officials tonight. So as you look through the list, for example, Gopher State officials works in these areas, and they do baseball, basketball, football. Here's the link that you can click to get into their Zoom session. So as we send you on your way tonight, please take some time and see if any of these fit your sport and your area of the state. And those Zoom rooms are open now, and those associations would love to have an opportunity to visit with you. I'm going to turn it back to Jason one more time for any last words, and then we're sending you to Zoom rooms or off for the evening.
Thank you, Laura. Feel free to join in as many of those sessions as you like. They'll be around for the next 20, 25 minutes answering questions. Laura and Pam and I are going to stick around on this main Zoom meeting. So if you want to come back and ask any questions of us, you're certainly welcome. Also connect with the associations that are listed and don't have Zoom meetings. Go ahead and connect with those that are in your area and ask more questions. They're certainly there to help you in your journey as well. So again, thank you for sticking around with us tonight. Thanks to all the presenters. They're awesome people. They give so much to the industry. Just incredible people. And not every association we have has a Zoom meeting to connect to tonight, just the way it worked out availability wise. But be sure to connect with those associations if you have questions, and check in with associations from your area. So with that, we'll turn you loose to the roundtables. If you are available and have time to do that, we would encourage you to do that. And Laura and Pam and myself will stick on the main Zoom meeting if you have questions. So thank you to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Jason, I have a question.